my window pane. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup buzz a whisper. Conversations open door. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing.
Good morning, friends. How are we doing? Listen, I've been gone. Have you felt it? I gotta be honest. I played the song anyway. I did. I was all by myself doing things I had to tackle, and we'll talk about that soon, but I didn't skip my song. And I don't know if you guys get the same energy I do from this, but I gotta tell you, I always appreciate it when I listen to it. So I got to give a big shout out to Aaron Gibson. He is the one who crafted that. It was amazing. A few conversations and magic. I don't know how else to put it. So just go find him. Go tell him how cool it is. Go tell him what you think. But also drop it in the comments. What do you think of the song? We're talking about an outro. We're not sure. I don't know. We'll see. But I just want to welcome you guys today. I'm so glad to be here. It is the 10th anniversary this month of me going into business as a coach and consultant with no safety net. And I got to tell you guys, it has been a journey, and thinking through how this conversation was going to go this morning, it was really something that I was like, I've talked about my reason why, and we might skim over that a little bit. But really, can we talk about what got me to the point like all of those moments before I said, okay, I'm done. Right. And so I really wanted to be transparent about the journey. And even today, I am not just focused on coaching and consulting anymore. I am in a retail environment. I am leading a business here in Bellingham, Washington. We're doing great things. We are leading the pack nationwide in a lot of ways. Especially just pushing forward, right? And so I want to be accountable for that too, and talk about why I took a break, because there are people out there who will judge you for not making your priorities the same consistently. There are others who understand life happens and priorities shift, and those who pretend they don't maybe could lose out on some of those things because they didn't reprioritize. And I just want to talk about all of it because life is happening all around us all the time. And I live in the United States. I don't know if you guys can keep up. I can't keep up. I'm trying to keep up. The people who are helping me keep up are telling me some really crazy things. And I don't mean people in general, but just like those resources I have vetted over time, those I trust to give me news, and then I can go fact check that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it really is what they just said. There's some shocking stuff coming across my feed. So paying attention, right? Just understanding that as a coach, a consultant, a mindset person, but also a business leader, I know what's on the horizon. I know what's behind us. And I know that the only way to figure out what to do today is to Venn diagram that, right? So we'll get into how I figured this all out, but I want to welcome some of you guys. I know the comments are already on fire. And so good morning. Good morning. I see Aaron Gibson, Soul Man Live. He's over on YouTube. Yes. Yes, coffee. He says, no coffee, Jackie. Of course, Jackie doesn't need coffee. If you guys know Jackie, you just wind her up and let her go. I say that with love. She is a business partner of mine for the Emotional Women. We'll be talking about that when we talk about the journey today. Jay is here too. Hey, Jay. He keeps asking me for a Star Trek, Star Wars, some kind of something coverage. If you guys are fans, we're going to need to work this out because I'll be honest, not the biggest fan. Not that I don't like it. I mean, it's cool. There's a few characters I can name. I could probably squeak by on some easy level trivia, but if you ask me to name them in the order of release, I'm lost. If you ask me beyond C3PO, who is who, Yoda, I don't know, right? So somebody help. I want to satisfy his need to have this conversation, but I would love to make it a group chat. Hey, Wheels. Yay, woo. I just love these comments. Okay, so thank you. Yes, I love that promo so much. Happy 10 years. 10 years, guys. That's a decade of my life. If you don't know who I am, let me do a quick intro, right? I don't want to get too lost in the sauce, but while I'm pushing these comments that I'm no longer going to be reading, I just want to tell you I am Melissa Houston. I'm the cultivator of dreams and motivator of human capital. And what that means is I help people like you figure out what they want to be when they grow up and figure out a plan to get there. If I could really be honest, my career started in sales. My very first job that I can remember beyond babysitting, right, where I actually had to put in the work. I've written about how my grandma set me up as her receptionist at 5 on a TV tray and how she taught me how to eloquently answer the phone, take notes, all the good stuff. I have to say that sales was my thing. And the reason sales was my thing is I come from a pretty big family. My whole family has been in sales, and I got to give credit to the charisma maybe we are willing to show, display, let flow. Some of it is just the zingy personality, right? It's in the DNA. I have to thank my grandparents, my grandmother, but also my great-grandfather. He was a top seller for Detroit as a car salesman. And so from the very couple of generations back, I can trace these sales humans. I've had other family members that sold things that maybe weren't so legal. They got in trouble, but they did a really good job, finger quotes, at covering their territory, I guess. I don't know. Not a pride moment, but to be honest, where you put your focus is where your successes may lie, right? And you have to determine if it's going to be something that you can bank on forever, if it's a short-lived run, or if it's something that It's just passion for you and you just want to tap into, right? I don't know how much time and money I've invested in canvases and paint, and some of them are still sitting there waiting for me to dream all over them. But some of it's lost revenue, right? I will never knit. I did one little scarf for Barbie. I forgot how to do a corner after the third turn. And I was like, I give up. And it's about 14 inches long. And I said, here's the scarf for Barbie. My 2-year-old didn't care. But really, let's think about the time, money, energy we invest in why, right? So I get that clarity out. And what I realized in the sales and the marketing and the growth, that when I started coaching businesses to grow for all the reasons, right? Whether it was telemarketing, flyers, I did it all, guys. When I was consulting these business leaders, they knew what to do. Most of us do, right? We got to a certain point in business because we know how to get things done. If we don't know how to get them done, we figure it out. The one thing that a lot of my clients were displaying was overwhelm, time management issues, lack of clarity, lack of balance, right? Lack of self-care, lack of assessment, just go, 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 go. And I'll be honest, it's cool to run. But if you run without intention, right? Like if you run just to run, cool. There might be some value there. But I always think of Forrest Gump when he's running. He just ran for like ever, right? And then one day he just stopped. He's like, okay, I'm going to go home now. I don't know what his mission was. But what if he was running a business for that long with that kind of passion and commitment, right? And so where are you putting your energy? No knocks on Forrest. I love him. He accomplished many great things. But good morning, guys. I'm seeing some more people coming in. Jay, I'm glad you're not insulted. I really do want to get this group chat together for Star Wars, Star Trek. However, so guys, go to documentedact.com, learn more about me. There's some testimonials there. You can go check out my profile. You can go check out my business page. I even drop my YouTube in the comments. I would love for you to subscribe there. I am a late bloomer on YouTube by choice. I really just didn't feel like doing it. I didn't want to be on video, but once LinkedIn pushed me to the next level, I was like, fine, you got me. You got Melissa, and here we are. So please go subscribe. I dropped the QR code, and I also put the link. With that said, can we get into 10 years? 10 years. I had somebody recommend the topic, and so I wanted to tie it into the anniversary, right? I wanted to make it relevant, and I thought it was great because they were talking about being a resilient leader in like harsh environments, those moments, kind of like we're seeing maybe on the horizon today for some, and how we just push through, how we evolve, how we create that resiliency within ourselves to keep going. And truth be told, that is kind of my jam. I loved that topic, but I wanted to leave room, and there's still room, if you guys want to suggest a topic, you can, but genuinely, I just thought through the topic and I thought, wow, that's great in this time. Me being a child born in the 80s, I have lived through some seasons, right? 2008, 50% of my hometown closed. I moved across the country. I sought out new opportunities, but then there was things like COVID. Here we are today with a lot of uncertainty, and there's all those variables in between, not to mention life, right? And so I started to think through, really, what have I been focused on? Why did it start? And truth be told, I need a change. I had done this miraculous thing in my brain, going from welfare, being on housing, being on food stamps, being on cash assistance. And if you're there, I'm not judging at all. But I had lived there since birth. Unfortunately, my mom was always lower income. There was never a time where we didn't qualify for services like that. And I was so grateful to have them, right? Especially now looking back, I couldn't imagine what my mom would have done without it. Entire family, to be honest, at some point needed the assistance. It's part of the freakonomics I learned about in cycles, and we can get into that a different day. But truth be told, I was on all of the services, and my goal was to change things. If you've read the book about legacy, which we'll be talking about soon, I I was asked by my grandmother to be the change, right? Like change the stars for the family kind of thing. And there's no pressure there if you're a grandma's girl who just lives and breathes anything she says. And so that was my goal, to just do it. I was always a quick learner. I was always willing to put in extra elbow grease. I loved the before and after infomercial effect. And so I used that to my advantage, whether it was your stats, your house, your children's smiles on their faces versus the crying they were doing when I showed up as the babysitter, whatever it was. I loved it. And so I used that passion, that mindset to grow. It took me through 2008 when the economy crashed. I went to be a cab driver. That was my first entrepreneurial experience. I hate that word. It's so long and weird. But I paid to use their vehicle to then hope that I would make my money back plus some, right? First business investment, investing in myself, knowing that I could do it. And I did. Sometimes it took 18 hours. Sometimes I had to go home, take a nap, and go back out. But somehow I either broke even or I made really good money. As I got better, strategizing my ways of moving, thinking through what I was seeing that was really beneficial, listening to people talk in the room as we're checking out, listening to these cab drivers tell their stories of, oh yeah, I got $100 fare today. Guys, that almost paid for the whole cab ride. And it was in one ride. And I turned and just said, how'd you do that? And I took notes, right? Small things like that took me, though, to an accident. I was also robbed. And I got PTSD from the accident. I really didn't feel safe all of a sudden driving at night in Phoenix, Arizona, which ironically enough felt safe prior to that. I grew up in a rough neighborhood, so rough neighborhoods were never so intimidating. They were just people, right? But there are some bad things that can happen. And I was putting myself at risk in a way I didn't even realize until much later. So when I had the accident, couldn't drive anymore, I shifted back to sales. It wasn't easy in that economy. Ended up having some family offer their basement to my family in Nebraska, which happened to be the third least unemployment rate in the nation. And it was so fantastic to get there. So that was the first change. Did really well there. I was part of a staffing agency. I helped develop their second location. It was super successful within the first year. And it was fun. The community took me in. I was part of their welcoming committee at the Chamber of Commerce. I was part of the envoys. I was helping others settle into town as somebody who had also done it, right? And it was really fun to have the president of the chamber be a big fan. Others who have maintained friendships, even on Facebook. These guys I've known for, almost 15 years now. And it was just really neat to find professionals who accepted me for my skill set, for my personality, and for who I was without knowing my history firsthand, right? There was never that stigma that followed. And guys, we can talk about a stigma. It does follow. And Jackie and I she does reentry services and I did background screens for a decade. I understand the stigma that comes with being related to or affiliated with people who have a past, right? Or an addiction or mental health. And I had all of it. And I was just the lucky one who somehow found a way to navigate in spite of. I overcame the hurdles that were put in front of others. And I'm grateful. I'm not judging. I'm not better than. I am very grateful that I had some kind of protection, right? Like, I don't know how else to put it. I just feel like I always had these bumpers up, like when you're bowling. Somehow grandma or maybe my mom or somebody just said, let's not include her in this. Let's just make her watch the kids. And so yay me, right? But it's not easy to watch your family go through it. And I've watched these things happen in mass. And I've watched the stigma that comes with knowing people who have had to live through some of these things. And my heart goes out to them. And it wasn't until I absolutely separated myself to where nobody said, hey, you're so-and-so's family member, that I was able to shift. But in doing so, I became very busy. I don't know if you guys have ever been active in a chamber of commerce, if you've ever had to run an a staffing firm, if you've ever had to do it by yourself in the office where you are the receptionist, you're the data clerk, you're the filing agent, you're the one doing marketing, sales, you're doing the interviews and onboarding and screening. I mean, it was everything. Put in the work. We did great anyway. I rose to the challenge. But I missed events. A lot of events. My son was being looked at by Alabama, the university, when he was in junior high school. He was in 9th grade when they told him if he maintained his athleticism and his GPA, he would be going full ride. I didn't want to do that, but I was working 45 hours a week and I just didn't have the time. I was there from 7:30 till 4:30. I had to be on call on rotation. This is part of the job I accepted, and I'm not necessarily upset at it, but I didn't have balance. I had to use vacation for appointments. And I'm going to come to the comments real quick and say hello to you guys because I don't want to get going too far. But hello, David Pushkin. Thank you guys for the congratulatory comments. I appreciate you. Jay, yes, transparency says, thank you for being transparent. It's not easy, guys. And anybody who makes it seem like there's an easy button is in marketing, right? Ask Staples. There is something to be said about telling the truth, because then when it feels hard for the next person, they go, oh, it's part of this, right? When you go to the gym and the people around you go, it's okay. Come on, you could do that last rep. They've seen that pain in their own face before and they found out they could push through. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, right? All the time when I first came on LinkedIn to coach, I would say, who wants to train with a boxing coach who's never taken a punch, right? Because there is something there about having been kicked on your butt and then having to get back up and find the win in spite of. It is the journey of the runner who trips and stumbles at the beginning of the race, and yet they get back up and they take gold, silver even. There's something to be said about the people who cross the line and go back and help others finish, right? And so all of these things are things that have inspired me, made me moved emotionally, and really have created the human I wanted to be. But here I am, the person you know today, missing my own children's appointments, not taking self-care seriously, having to use my vacation to get their doctor's appointments in there. And, back then I had to do like pre-physicals for school. You can't do sports without a physical. The shots, the everything, right? And then we weren't from that state, so allergies were hard. We were sick all the time. It's corn, it's pollen, it's a lot of cultivating. And I just had to use every bit of PTO or vacation to do stuff. I was exhausted and I had no way to take a break because I was using vacation for appointments. Who's done it? Be honest. Say, I have used vacation for appointments. I want to know. PTO. Say yes, PTO for vacation or for appointments. Be honest, right? Because you guys are leaders. I'm seeing who's in the comments. My friends are leaders on LinkedIn and beyond. And when you guys are honest about how hard this is and how much we've put out and sacrificed, it makes it easier, right? My family struggled, literally struggled. I don't know how many times my husband and I were fighting. It's hard to say this and I want to be respectful. So just know that I'm grateful we're in a way better place than we were then. But when we lived in Nebraska, we basically fought every time I went to the grocery store. It was always the straw. It was the last straw on the camel's back that just did it. And I'll tell you why. It was great small town living. Loved it. But we were the only Walmart within 50 miles. Just pinpoint where you live, draw a circle around you 50 miles, and imagine all your friends come to town on a Saturday. Okay, so that's fine. I don't like crowds, though. I'm very high strung, especially back then. PTSD is a thing, guys. And even when the PTSD is in control, anxiety was high back then. I was on prescriptions for my anxiety. I had higher pain levels even back then I was heavier. I was overweight. I don't know if it was just like the swelling from being in the cold, a harsher climate, right? I'm from Arizona. So when you have arthritis, that's the greatest place to be. That's why all the elderly go there during winter. But it's also the reverse if you leave there and go to a harsher winter, right? And so my silly self did that. But third strongest economy in the nation, it was a smart move overall. I was paying the price. So not only did my family struggle, but I was dealing with pain. I was dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with a lot of depression because if you guys have ever missed an event for your kids, there's signs on their face, right? When you miss more than one, when you try and then there's an emergency at work because a work comp issue for your employee, or a failed drug test in the manufacturing facility, or a failed background check. So now you have to hurry and try to recruit the next person so you can get them to start because your client's expecting somebody next week. Things shift in priorities, right? And I was, finger quotes here, guys, lucky, and I am lucky, but I was using that. I am so lucky to have somebody at home. Well, that person at home was working nights. And so being awake during the day to offset my time was a struggle. Luckily, they were all school age, but it was, hey, get your sleep as quickly as you can after they leave, wake up as soon as they're home, and then you got to be up the whole time. And guys, that's exhausting for anybody. And so I was lucky to have him, but he was burning at both ends also. When it came time for us to be together on a Saturday, we had to go fight the crowds at Walmart on a budget, an insane budget. We had 4 children. We split custody, so having any kind of benefits at the time, which we would have qualified for with the family size and my income level at that time, wasn't a possibility. So we were living on a welfare budget without the welfare benefits. And it was tough, but I could scratch cook. I brought the kids into the kitchen. We made it fun. Living in the middle of Nebraska, we had a lot of fruits and vegetables, the Bruce stuff. And there was this program. You could buy vegetables in bulk for like $50 and you got a month's worth of vegetables basically. And so we did that and we created the best environment we could for the kids. But my family struggled because if mom's not home, mom's not home. And if they fight at Walmart, we can't even take the kids to Walmart because they're going to just watch. And then even if they don't watch, when we come home, how many of you have done it where you're coming in and the way you put the groceries down, the kids can tell. Eventually I got so burnt out between home, life, work that I called in and said, I need a mental health day. And my boss at the time asked me to come into work to speak to him on my day that I was requesting off. We had the talk and I basically said, I am burnt out. I had survived a house fire at this point, guys. We almost lost our daughter just a year before. I struggled a lot. It was a lot. We had some custody stuff going on with my husband. I won't get into it, but it was not pretty. We didn't get to see the kids for a while. Life isn't perfect just because it looks fun on the internet, right? And so all of that combined, tried counseling, using it for myself. And the therapist said, wow, I can't believe you're smiling. Oh, you've dealt with so much. And I have customers or clients, that have dealt with less and aren't doing as well as you. Marketing 101, my brain went, ooh, like brakes on. She's not ready for me because she's telling me she's like, her people struggle. Her people struggle. I don't want to be here, right? And I appreciate the transparency. I do. Looking back, I really do, because I would have been frustrated had I spent more time that I didn't have in a place that I didn't need. And I say that with care because I still put in work. I just changed direction and I didn't go to that place, right? Long story short, though, I went home after the talk with the boss and said, I'm done. We're moving. My father-in-law had mentioned Washington to us a few times. I had always dreamed of Seattle. I grew up watching Sleepless in Seattle. I saw Practical Magic, which, if you know, it was actually recorded up in this part of the country, but it looks really cool and it's supposed to be the East Coast. But I fell in love with it. I did. And so I said, let's just do it. I've always been able to grow sales. I've always been able to exceed expectations. I've always been able to talk to people and tell them, hey, no, this is a really cool thing. You should check it out. Why not do it for me this time? Why not stop asking permission to get a raise or to work remotely and just go say, hey, do you want me to help? This is my fee. And guys, it sounds like, okay, yeah, Melissa makes it sound really simple. It's 2015, it was that simple. People still answered their phones. I could call a business and say, hey, I'm going to offer my service to you. Do you want to grow with me? And they say, yes. Right? And I was active with so many different organizations. I had been staffing for HR professionals in all of the biggest places. Then I did background screens. After the recruiting, I did background screens before I actually left, right after I missed that step. Same employer asked me to start that business. It's still in existence. It's thriving. It's one of the big guys, one of the bigger guys, right? It's out there. And from logo to concept to website to color schemes, like I was there. I got locked in a room with legal documents and a legal pad and said, good luck, learn this. And I did. And then I went and took a test and I passed. And, it's really cool to look back and see it. But I burned out anyway, in spite of. So I went out on my own, April 2015. After a talk with my boyfriend at the time, we weren't even married yet. And we took the move. We did it. We waited for the right time. My son and I went to Washington first. He was older. It was a little bit easier to manage him. Having him with me meant I could monitor his activities, teenagers alone without their parent that, close by. I mean, my boyfriend was there for sure, but it's a little bit easier when mom's eyebrow comes up. I'll be honest. Even now, guys, the eyebrows respect. So he comes with me. The younger children are finishing up their elementary stuff and they're with him waiting to go home, right? We're splitting custody at this time, waiting to go home to see mom. And he would bring our daughter, with him and our stuff after the boys went home, the two stepchildren I have. So like a month without each other. We were in different states. I had to go find a spot and I was looking and we were trying to do all the things. It wasn't easy, but it was totally worth it because by the time they came, we had our first home, actual house we were living in with a yard. If you stood in front of my front porch, I just walked out to the sidewalk from my front porch and looked to the right, you saw the high school. If you looked to the left, you saw the elementary school. My kids could walk. The little convenience store, it was a little market, groceries, small stuff, bread, milk, eggs, and then drinks, candy, snacks for the kids. And they still remember them when we stop in, right? We created that Sesame Street vibe that I had always wanted. I wanted that small town growing up in the 80s. Like I said, my afternoons were filled with Andy Griffith and the Brady Bunch, right? I Love Lucy and neighbors that brought over pies and you gossiped with and you got in trouble with when your husband got home for fun stuff, right? My landlord was my back door neighbor. She lived just behind us and I would cook and take her a plate. She would come to the backyard and play board games with the kiddo. After school, we all sat out back and just played board games. It was a life I had never experienced. Really, truly, I had settled in. We started to cook from scratch. I lost a ton of weight. Just moving here, my body felt lighter. My husband and I lost almost 100 pounds each within the first 18 months. Life had changed because we made a decision to find something healthier for us, something that felt better overall. I was rocking the same role with a large client consistently month after month, year after year for almost 8 years. I think about 8 years, right? And then he passed away very unexpectedly to me, just on the back end of my mom passing. I flew out to go put my mom to rest And when I flew home, I called because he hadn't been responding to my emails, and I was a little upset. And I was like, hey, can I talk to the guy? And they said, what do you mean? And I was like, the owner? Can I talk to him? He said, nobody told you. And I said, and I'll be honest, guys, when I heard nobody told you, I was like, no, I know that tone. I just heard it for a week in Arizona. I don't like the tone. Right. But I realized he was gone. I reached out to the next guy, and my first answer was, we have to close. And guys, I learned a lesson that day that we can't bank on anything, even our own good actions, right? Even if you're doing a great job, even if the business is doing well, even if you're growing throughout COVID, breaking records, life can happen again and again and again. Now, that's part of where we're at, right? So if you're following along, I went from living in Arizona as a sales professional, doing any sales, marketing, whatever. I was always good at finding a way to earn money. I even worked as a nanny for a pilot and his wife, taking care of twins in a beautiful home that had a guest house and a movie theater and a putting green and a basketball court. I've done a lot of stuff, guys. Not all of it is bullet pointed everywhere, right? But it's all there. And I'm sure you have, right? Like, what is the most unique job you've ever held you've never really talked about? I know there's something fun. And when you take all of that experience and put it in a blender, you get me. But to go from sales to recruiting to background screening, consulting businesses on compliance and growth and HR policies and how to onboard more effectively and ROI and all of these things that matter. And then you add in social media, right? Because as I grew, so did the way we communicated. After my client passed, especially, like as a staffing person, I was using LinkedIn primarily to market, cold call, inbound, terrible stuff. It worked. I don't know why, but terrible. Maybe just to shut me up. Maybe they were kind, right? But I was a terrible marketer back in the day. And then I got better. Eventually, after a decade, I was the director of marketing and compliance. I was in charge of all the things. I was growing on LinkedIn. And when I looked back after my client passed, I realized there was a turning point somewhere earlier in the year where I felt a shift. And that's when I went to LinkedIn. It's when I got serious about being online, feeling there was something, maybe, testing the water, seeing, is it me? Do I need something fresh? Is it them? Do I need a job? I don't know, right? How many of you came just because you're not sure why, but there's maybe something over here that's going to tickle you at some point. So you're just here to see what it is. That's kind of where I went. I decided to stop being somebody that was referral based, which at that time it really was. If you didn't know that I did it, you didn't find me. I wasn't marketing outwardly. It was just word of mouth. And then I went to LinkedIn. And I'm going to show you some of the early stats, guys. These are not today. I have slowed down, but that does not mean I'm too far behind. I just want to be transparent. These are not today. So don't freak out if you see them. But you guys may remember this version of my profile, right? The glitter, the fun, the coaching, consulting, connecting, the things I'm doing, but bubbles, color, all of the things we've been talking about, right? Always calling myself the cultivator of dreams and motivator of human capital, because it really was the only way I could explain what I did. And there was no title that was a one size fits all for Melissa Houston. I was a top 1% of professional trainers and coaches on LinkedIn. I was doing audio events, board advisory for the Wakabumi program, mindset and accountability coaching. They labeled me a top public speaking voice. And if you guys know, let me get rid of this banner. It's driving me nuts here. Let me see. If you guys know, they used to have hashtags here, right? And so those were the things I would talk about a lot. And it was rocking. It was working. I was doing a lot of engagement. This little voice you get, it was something you could do by participating in articles, collaboration articles, collaborative. I was going to say both at the same time. And I was keeping up. I had different ones. Often, I think at one point I had 3 different options I could choose from to highlight. Oh, look, I'm hiding behind this picture, guys. You'll see the content performance. It's not too shabby, right? I was getting 1 million impressions in a year. I was up almost 1,000% for the year. On one of my best days, I got just over 11,000, right? But you can see pretty consistently what was happening. For some reason, March always seems to be a month I like to take a break. And so that's also consistent about me. I think it's just the transition from winter to spring. I feel the energy and I like to kind of live and bask in it. But that's okay. Every time you see that, that's a heartbeat, right, guys? You should not consistently be going up or you're not taking breaks and you're going to have the family struggle. You're going to have the burnout. You're going to have the you not taking care of you. But here it is. I was also teaching a lot about social selling index. I know some of you are clients and have heard this. Some of you have been in events with me and have heard it. But top 1%, that's why I got that title, right? They gave me the score. This was my report card. I was also the top 3% of my network. And if you look at this, right, you have the 4 pillars that they're looking for to make you successful. This is something that you can do at any time on your own. And I'm going to do it now because I do want to compare and contrast where I'm at today for transparency purposes, taking the break, and we're getting to the break. And at some point, guys, I am going to open up the stage today to let you join me. But I just wanted to kind of walk you through where we've been, right? This is my journey. This is how we got here. So today I am the top 4 of my industry and my network has exponentially grown and I'm in the top 22% of my network. Now, guys, some of you might think, ooh, she fell all that way on her network. Yes, I did with intention. I am worried more so about being in the top 5% of my industry. I love being in the top 3. I prefer to be number 1, of course, but I do try to stay in the top 5% of my industry as a baseline for Melissa in a healthy life, giving myself leeway. In my network, I never want to be the top. And the reason I never want to be the top is if I am the smartest person in the room, I am no longer learning, right? And so I don't mind leading my industry, but I want to learn from others within their industries, right? So I am connected to some really exciting people, really famous people, really amazing business professionals who have had success and now give back, right? And my network's out there. I engage with them. You can find these people, but my intention was to learn from the best. So I went and found them. So that's why there's a difference there. Also, I will say my current social selling score is only 56. And the reason is I don't spend half as much time as I used to. That is why my build relationships has fallen from 25 to 16. I'm working on that. It is growing. I'm also not engaging quite as much. I'm not doing collaborative articles anymore. So I'm down to 13 from, I believe that's 18 on the screen. It's a little fuzzy. Finding the right people. I'm not outward searching. I don't use that search bar very often, but that's what it's looking for is, are you connecting and searching and really trying to be hungry and a marketer? And I used to, but not today. Right? So that's my truth. That's where I am. But that's where it started, right? Just a reminder, guys, future is yours to create. I started from a place that was not very healthy. I was struggling in my relationship. My husband and I, again, just boyfriend at the time, took a break. He left town and went to a different state for a while. To find himself, for me to find myself. We had to really dig in and figure it out. And sometimes a break is a break is a break, and it doesn't matter who it is. You need to take care of you first. I love the analogy. I know we've talked about it numerous times on LinkedIn, of the airplane. You're allowed to secure your mask before anybody else on an airplane. Why is it any different on the ground? What isn't working? What is? These are questions you have to answer, right? Because I, from the outside, had a ton of friends who were proud of me, still are, right? But the people who I grew up with, the people who had stayed around the neighborhood, They tell me all the time how proud they are to see the growth I've done. And that's really cool. It's really neat. But even in hearing that, it didn't fix not being at all of the games. It didn't fix not having true vacation. It didn't fix always trying to make sure that dinner was done. But how creative can we be with what's in the fridge? Right? The reason I am a resilient leader today is because I had no choice but to figure it out before. And I think that's a variable that's not given enough credit, guys. You know, if you read this promo that ChatGPT wrote about the show, and if you know me, I love to write the promos with ChatGPT because honestly, I don't know where we're going. I just talk. I don't plan much except the pictures, and I did that 30 minutes before the show this morning. But I knew enough that you guys would have to be here, right? Like we have to talk about these things, and it's not always easy, and the planning isn't always robust. But it's easy to tell you what I already know about myself. It's easy to tell you I have failed. It's easy to tell you that some of the people that I have worked with who are super successful, people who have exceeded any hopes that I have in their careers, right? People who have lived in politics at a higher level, people who have created businesses that sold for numerous millions and they've retired and now they get to do what they want. I'm not there yet. But it doesn't matter if you're not happy. It doesn't matter when you run into that time management issue or your unbalanced life at home. It doesn't matter what your college degree or your previous successes feel like, because today feels way heavier, right? And so when somebody calls me, it's because they really don't know what to do next. And that's heavy for a coach. But it's also not so heavy for me, in my opinion, because I've dealt with some of the heaviest things humans could face. And I'm not saying I'm unique in that by any means. But being in a larger family, you can multiply it some. If you're an only child, you don't have to deal with your bratty sibling. If you have 6 siblings, you have to deal with 6 bratty siblings sometimes, right? If you've ever fought over the spot on the couch with a brother or sibling, try to multiply it by 7. And that was my mom's life. Then you have all of them have grandchildren. And my grandmother had all of these 17 grandchildren trying to elbow into her lap. You had to get strategic. You had to have her clear the deck and go, Missy, come here. And she did, right? And so truth be told, you learn a lot in a pack. That's why I think education is important in the schoolyard. I learned a lot there. I paid attention when the teacher spoke. I love the colors. Even the way my 6th grade teacher wrote, I took in. She wrote a little bit of cursive, a little bit of print, and it just seemed to fit me better. I didn't like some of the letters in the cursive alphabet. I also didn't like to print all of the letters. It was faster to do it a different way. So, it's funny what adds to who we are, but these are the things that made me me. The who, what, where, when, whys of Melissa Ann Houston. If you're new to the show, because we're streaming on a lot of new platforms, I do want to tell you that this document then act thing, you might have seen it across the screen. You might have heard it. You might have realized that's my website. It's the premise in which I think all success lies. From the waitress to the CEO, if you write it down and then get to work, you're going to remember, right? No lettuce on this burrito, extra sour cream on that enchilada. Done if you write it down. If they can read it in the kitchen, if you communicate it effectively forward and you don't forget. Same thing goes with a board meeting. Same thing goes with a business. Same thing goes with politics. You should document, then act, right? From the top to the bottom, it doesn't matter. So I've been teaching this concept. I've been using Venn diagrams, elementary education concepts. I want to be a little bit of Lisa Frank, a little bit of Betty White, a little bit of Google, that research of a decade, right? That I have in my back pocket, the compliance, the business, the know-how, the startup after startup that I've helped launch. Let's get the circles out and figure it out, right? So that's what I do. I use simple things, simple tools. I've created journals and planners. They're on the website. You can go see. I was doing coffee chats. The name of the show came from that term for that 15-minute meeting that people recommend you do on LinkedIn. I was doing 3 to 5 a day, 5 days a week. I was making friends. I went from 1,200 friends to 12,000 friends in a year. You saw the impressions. I just talked about what I wanted to talk about. I tell people all the time, fun and passion sell. Those are the two pillars I think all business should be founded on. If you don't have those two things, you're in trouble. But if you have them, it's easy to get moving. It's easy to get people to move with you. And so I told them what I was passionate about, and I had fun doing it. And I used colors and Bitmoji and cartoons and bright contrast, right? Things that marketers are like, hey, we shouldn't probably do that. I was breaking rules, and I even joined this Social Saturday chat. Who was part of Social Saturday chat? Did we meet there? The one where everybody commented on Victoria's post with your favorite things, and then you connected based on that. I know there's Felipe's show, and I don't know if you just started that. I still want to learn where that came from, Felipe. So we got to talk about that too. But like, did it launch because of the Social Saturday event, and you guys just did it in parallel? Because it's so cool, right? But so I was part of this whole party on Social Saturday. I was in, and I had a lot of friends, and I had a lot of fun. And we played. And I would post things like, I'm coloring. Who would sit down and color with me? Bring your own Skittles. And I had a bag of Skittles. Asking grownups on LinkedIn, who wants to color and eat candy? And you know what? I think I got like 30 connections that day. Those connections created ripples. We talk about it a lot. We love the ripple. That ripple took me to do something I never thought I would do. Never. I joined not one, but 2 books. I met my publisher. I met some of my best friends here, and they're in the books with me. I was able to share my experience as a coach on LinkedIn, talk about the people whose life I had a ripple on, just hints to what happened. Then I was blessed enough to find out that people mention me in their books or speak about me and their experience when they talk about their LinkedIn journey. But a 2-time best-selling international co-author is pretty neat to say, hey, that was part of the 10-year experience. And that just happened last year, guys, right? It was after my mom passed, after I lost my client of 8 years, after we started a new background screening company on the back end, and that closed a few months later, 8 months later. It was just bad timing. My brain really, I got to be honest, my brain was missing my mom. My heart wasn't exactly the same, and I knew it. But I knew that the tools, and we were doing great things. We just ran out of time and money. We really did. And it was unfortunate because we were right there, but we did a good job till we couldn't do a good job. And that happens sometimes. There's a life lesson there. But after that, I decided that I was going to go and just slow down a bit. And I use finger quotes on slow down because I'm still running somebody's business, right? I am running a retail environment. We do really good sales. We are leading the pack in a lot of ways. We have turned the store around, and just recently, this last week, my boss gave the nicest compliment in front of a customer and said that, and I'm paraphrasing, but pretty close to the quote, it was, I built this store from the ground up. He's speaking first person. And this is the best team it's ever had. And, as somebody who never rode a motorcycle, as somebody who didn't know a ton about motorcycles going in, to enter an industry where I am not going to be well received because I don't ride. Riders want to talk to riders. It's a thing. But somehow I found a way to connect with people in their passion, right? They are passionate about their thing, and I love people who are passionate. So I used that to my advantage, and I had fun with them in their passion. I had dressed children for years, so I could eyeball you and probably size you up pretty well. I'm good at that. And so it felt like I'd been doing it forever because I did consult forever. I just had a new product, right? And that was a mindset shift, and it's still something I want you to consider today. Are you in the middle of turmoil? Are you thinking about where to go next? Have you just been laid off? Have you considered, making a change and you need to do something different? Figure out what that passion is. Figure out what you really want to support in other humans get down to just that thing, right? Like for me, I want fun and passion to be part of everybody's life. So whatever it is that brings that to your life, I want to encourage it. I want to cultivate it. I want to help you get a plan together to make it a priority. You can do that in that business. And so we've been doing great. It's fun. It's playful, but I've also been resting, guys. They give me PTO, right? I don't know if you guys remember just a little bit earlier, we were talking about how I need a change, right? How I used vacation for appointments. Now they pay me to be at home. And I have a really good PTO plan where I work. They're fantastic with it. I also get to coach humans. The things that Melissa Houston stands for on LinkedIn, she does at work, right? The who, what, where, when, why does not change. I want to coach people behind me. My assistant manager is younger than I am. She is the person who I was when I was in my teens, maybe just a little bit older too, right? Like I don't want to give away her age, but kind of in that time frame of 18 to 25, that mindset of I'm still trying to figure out who I want to be, but I know I'm good at some things and I just want to have fun. And she's there. And all I had to do was just go, hey, can you focus on this for me? Hey, how can I help you get this to be your focus? And she took off. So much so, she's been leading the nation in a contest for a year. She's been in the top 5 consistently. That's her. Now, I did cultivate the environment where she's thriving in. Okay, I'll take credit for that because as a leader, we are responsible for that, good or bad. But I get to invest my knowledge into somebody who's still got the hunger, the yearning, the potential to remember every single thing I say without a notepad and use it, right? This brain who is so robust and so good at anything she applies herself to is going to take the knowledge that I've been harnessing for all of these years and run with it. And I'm proud. That's what I want to be when I grow up, is somebody who reaches back and pulls forward, right? To have a job that allows me to not go in until 9:30 in the morning any day I'm working. Today I work, but we're able to do the show in spite of, right? I have this time frame as an early riser where I can work up to 5-6 hours in the morning before I have to go to work. And I don't even care because it feels great. I get one job done. I go into the other. When I get off work, I'm tired, but I go to sleep and I'm well rested and I do it all. That works for me now, but I still have family time and still here. We still do family days, right? That matters. The why I started doing entrepreneurship cannot change my behavior. I don't want to end up doing the same habits, same patterns. I don't want to be so inaccessible to my family that all of this was for naught, because that's why I started. And so ask yourself today, right? That's one of the things I want to remind you guys as a leader. How do you do this when stuff hits the fan, when life is uncertain? Ask yourself, how do you get through these times? You already know how you do it. What did you do successfully? What didn't you? Remember that moment in A Christmas Story where Dad's flat tire makes him curse a lot? Do you want to be that guy when it hits the fan? Do you want to act differently the next time? Because I've done both, guys. There's sometimes where I've dropped something and bad words just slipped right out of my mouth. And there's other times where I'm like, oh, darn, that sucks. Do you have a towel? Can you throw me a towel? It's not a big deal. I got it. Right? And there's a variable there, but you have, sorry, my alarm went off. You have to be in charge of that. You have to be assessing as you go. Other things that have happened since growing on LinkedIn, the emotional women. Jackie Hellberg, good buddy. You guys might recognize her. She and I are embarking on this journey to talk to humans in organizations, and beyond, right? We're still developing the whole plan, but we want to talk to you guys. We want to talk to the people you work with and your boss and others about emotions and why they come up and how we handle them and how we can do it better, why we feel them, right? There's so much there. We got so much coming, but that's part of my journey. And that happened again just last year. Right? I used this before, but this is basically what I did. I was like, let's turn up the volume. I'm tired. I don't want to hide. I want everybody to know Melissa Houston's here. And I turned it up. And you know what happened is my friends came. I got opportunities like writing into books, like starting a new business, like coaching a bunch of humans who started their own business. Like being able to be called a coach by some of these really cool humans, being called a partner by some of these really cool humans down here. The ripple of the shows that I co-host, the ripple of the shows in those audio events, the people who have joined me on the stage to share their story. I look back at my events, and if you guys want to go look, it's been incredible. I want to do a montage. I haven't done it. Felipe and I had talked about it. Then he did one for like the coaching, careers, chaos, and coaching. And so I kind of paused because I was like, I want to wait. I want to do one, but I still want to bring it. But if you go and just click on Melissa Houston and events and go scroll all the way to the bottom, you could just see the faces and when it started. You'll see that Damien and Jackie and I were on a stage together a long time ago, really early on in my Emotional Women. Sorry, I just read Jackie's comment here. Hey, it is us, the Emotional Women. You're right. But having them on the stage so long ago and knowing that they had their show, I don't know if we were talking about the show or not. It wasn't recorded, right? And so that's kind of cool. We're at this point. It's cool. LinkedIn made us change from the traditional audio to come out here and do it, right? And I'll be honest, when I first heard about it, I wasn't happy. I literally was like, oh, God. Now, I bring this up because the mindset shift we've been talking about, all of this happened at some point. I was doubting myself. Am I going to be able to primarily support my family and my income, which was true before? Can I maintain that truth if I go out on my own? I had to turn that self-doubt off and go, yeah, you've done it everywhere you've ever been. Anytime you said, hey, I want to be at the top of the chart, you went to the top of the chart. Imposter syndrome? No, ma'am. It just said top of the chart. Every time you apply yourself. Fear? Are you scared to try? Because that's the only reason you shouldn't do it. Every time you apply yourself. And all of those reminders activated the last one. All I have to do is apply myself. What does applying myself mean? It means write the damn list and get into action. Right? Now, the list varies. And I want to talk about it really quick because I have 3 different lists that I'm constantly rotating in my life. And I want to be clear about this. Number one, it comes to this, and I just kind of want to put this, it's more positive as we're talking about the list. But the first list is today. You have 24 hours to complete what's on this page. That means if you need milk, today's list says I get milk from the grocery store. It means if you have to send the email to your boss because today's the last day to get it done, you send the email, right? You get it. It's today. Then you have this week. In the next 7 days, the things I need to accomplish. I have to clean out the guest room. My mother's going to be here on Saturday. I have to do the laundry. I have to insert here, right? Whatever it is. Proposals, RFPs, filed taxes. You guys understand. What does that 7-day list look like? And then after. Anything after 7 days doesn't get a deadline. It's just after. Number one, I'm a human. I have no idea if I get to wake up tomorrow. True story. I'm not trying to be morbid. I'm not even trying to be dark. It's just a fact. I don't know when my time is up. So for me to plan beyond that seems a little silly. I can dream, but to put a date or time on it seems frivolous. So it's after. Now here's the fun part. Every day I sit down and write today's list. I look at this week's list from yesterday, right? I did yesterday's list. It should be done. If not, then I have to go ahead and reapply yesterday's list to today and then hope that there's some grace wherever that deadline was, because usually it's not on today's list unless it's really today. Then I'm going to look into next 7 days. What can I pull from the 7-day list into today's 24 hours? I know I have to chop it up. So how am I going to chop it up? What do I want to do today to get it done? And remember, it's just like your plate, right? If you start at the vegetables, the least favorite thing for most people, it's easier to finish the dessert at the end, right? And so some people like to start easy to get the first one knocked down, and it's super easy. Sometimes I just put wake up on my list because, hey, if I'm on my list, I woke up, I just said, I'm not sure if I get to, but if I can check that box, the good feeling already tickles, right? The brain goes, hey, we're doing stuff. You could add brush your teeth, brush your hair, get dressed. I don't care what your list looks like. But as you develop this, as you get better at creating the list, I really hope you stick to 3 to 5 serious items to get done every day. Nothing more, nothing less. And it depends on the volume of items, right? Picking up a gallon of milk versus a whole month's worth of shopping to cook from scratch, completely different action time frame, right? So you have to determine how much time you have, what you want to get done, and how long it'll take. But 3 to 5 things. If you finish it, you can always reach into next week and just start marking it off. You don't even have to add it to today's list. Just grab next week and start going. But you're never overwhelmed by too long a list if you keep to 3 to 5 on each. The next thing I would say is if you get that 7-day list accomplished somehow in that same 24 hours, move into after. Why not? You have extra time. Get it done. But if you use those 3 lists and revisit them every day and keep cropping, chopping, assessing, acting, you're going to get a ton done. And if you diversify your list, making sure that every time you create a list, there's some new thing. It could be sit on Canva for 10 minutes and try to make a video. It could be sit down and talk to ChatGPT for 10 minutes and learn more about AI. What is your goal? What is something you've never done? It could be go try the new restaurant across the street. You never know what's going to inspire you, but I know for a fact you're not going to get inspired by the same old, same old. If you were, you'd be there by now. So get to dreaming, right? Get to assessing. What are those things you would really like to try to figure out? I will say I'm going to open up the stage to friends soon. Anybody who wants to join, feel free to message me. I will start dropping the link. But I just want you guys to really think about, like, have I impacted you in some way? What has your journey been like next to this 10 years? I would love feedback. What do you see? What would you like to see? Where do you see this going? Where do you want to see it going? Do you have topics for a coming show? Guest suggestions. Like, this is the time where I'm assessing, after 10 years of being a coach and consultant, what my next steps might look like as I grow into the things I've told you about, right? The Emotional Women. I have some books. I would love to be able to go and talk about my chapter and talk to organizations about their social media. They're growing, being on a professional network and growing in spite of it, and also overcoming family stuff. It's not easy to come from the background I did, but I quit all of the stuff that I had. I basically left the government a note and just disappeared. I didn't want to have them take me back. And so I didn't say goodbye, and I just went and started paying rent, full rent, out of town. And I regret not telling the government. It took a while for them to recover the apartment, I'm sure. But I had to cut it that way. I could not make it simple, because if I had overthought it, I would have hesitated. And I know that about me, right? But now, after a decade, this last year, new things are coming after resting in a job that is now thriving because I've rested there. It's kind of fun. It really is. But guys, I love this. I'm looking at the comments. It has been blowing up. I cannot even believe how many people have shown up. This is so amazing. If you guys want the link, hit me up in the DMs. If you have the link, feel free to join at any time. But what is Coffee Chats? What is Melissa Houston coaching to you? What have you seen? What would you like to see? That's really where I'm at. I also, if you're listening, can you drop me your favorite quote? I don't care who said it. I was thinking about some of this too. And I'll be honest, one of the quotes that started early for me was an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it's one that I used quite a bit in background screenings because I felt it very necessary to put that out there, right? You don't want to have accidents happen in background screens because it really can affect a business, a brand, humans. So with that said, it's just something that pushes me forward. I have my other quote. I'm going to put it up here on the screen real quick because I don't want to forget to. Victory and victim both start out the same. It's up to you how it ends. And that's something I wrote as a kiddo, 16 or so, dealing with some really dark thoughts on the side of the road. And truth be told, if you look at the words VICT, they both literally start the same. And the only difference is how we decide it's going to end. And it ends when we say it does, right? When we determine we have given all we can, that's when it's over. And we have to rest in our work. Sometimes it's hard to do it alone, though. So I just want to say real quick, if you need help, this is it, right? Before we move on to my friends, this is what I'm offering. This is a really good deal. I don't want you to be alone, but you can do it for free here. We give a ton of tips. We have a ton of people that are awesome sauce, like Miss Jackie Hallberg, who give away free advice and tips and content ideas all the time. And Jackie, you display an amazing presence on LinkedIn with your content.
Oh, I appreciate you. So thank you for having me. I haven't been talking on your show in so long. So thank you. It's early morning. Jay had talked about my energy level. Yeah, I have lots of energy. You're not seeing me on video today because I am not video worthy and this is an audio show, but lots of energy. I've been up for about 5 hours now, knocking stuff out and thinking about how to grow my online presence as well and how to connect with people. And I'm writing down different people that I want to have on my show. And I want to talk about stuff with the emotional women and Wishful Wednesday coming up. And it's like, this was the perfect topic today for me to listen to you with Melissa. First of all, thank you for being around for so long, for so many of us on Saturday mornings. Thank you for being my coach last year and congrats on your 10 years of being a coach. So when she says these are good deals, guys, these are good deals. I mean, it's not something that you're just going to go spend $5 on and just have your whole life change. You have to invest in some things. Now, Melissa asked for a quote. I have 5 million quotes that I love, but nothing is at the top of my head right now because I kind of want to feel the energy of other people today too. I've been so caught up in my day job. We just moved into a new building last week. It has been a mess, like literally a mess in terms of the physical stuff being a mess and then all the organizing and behind the scenes work. And so today I'm just kind of enjoying listening to Miss Melissa, watching your guys' comments. I'm cleaning, I'm purging stuff, I'm making notes, I'm starting to get some stuff together for the rest of the weekend. So thank you for having this show. Thank you for me talking or letting me talk today, just because it feels almost like the old school audio event, just coming here and not having to be, make sure my lighting is okay for the camera and everything. So this is what I miss about the audio rooms. Just boom, jumping on, talking for 2 seconds, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, jumping right back down. So thank you for having me, my friend.
I love that you love the audio. And yeah, Jay, listen, you're new to Melissa Houston, but this is how we always did it. This is how it's always been done. And to be honest, it's very rare that I like to be on camera because it's like 4 a.m. I wake up on a Saturday. And by the time I get my promo stuff done, like I said, I did it 30 minutes before the show. I am not camera worthy either. I am in my pajamas. I have not brushed my hair today. And I don't intend on making myself miserable to be on the internet so early. But I also think there's something beautiful about not having to show up in a presentation way and just being yourself, right? And so I love that they want to see us, but look at, there we are in our pictures. Jackie,
it's almost a nicer version of all our crazy faces that you put up for a minute ago on Emotional Women's picture.
Don't you love that one? I mean, guys, come on, let's be serious. Look at this. I just love it so much. I was like, Jackie, do you have any pictures like this? And she goes, hold on. And she went in and did a photo shoot, and I loved it so much. And so, yeah, Jackie, you're fantastic. I do have to ask you, if you remember, when did Wishful Wednesday start? Because I don't.
So Damien Kinsey and I started a different show before Wishful Wednesday. It was called Finding Your Purpose. It was always on the third Tuesday of the month. That one would have had its 2-year anniversary last month in March. And I think we did 2 episodes of that before we started Wishful Wednesday, which would mean, I believe, next month in May would have been 2 years. So we have not done Wishful Wednesday since December. If some of your guests don't understand what Wishful Wednesday was, it was a chance to come up on stage, ask for help, talk about your goals, put your wishes out there in the world, but also to support other humans and to let people know if you're struggling and you're like, hey, I really need a new client. Do you guys have any ideas how to promote my business? Some people asked for legal advice. Some people would just come on and they'd never even talk, Melissa, but they would like message Amy and I and say, I don't want people to know I'm struggling with this, but would you put this out there? Or some people would message us and say, hey, I don't want people to know this, but I want to gift them this book, or I want to pay for their first coaching class or something like that, because there were so many people that just really cared in that room. So we are bringing it back next week, my dear. It's going to be the very first time. I think you're going to be at work during it, but if you're not, we really want your voice on that show, Melissa, because you were with us nearly every single month when we were there. You would talk, you would give support. Even if you were like multitasking, you could put the hearts up and you would just literally support people. So we want to see if that support is going to be back in this kind of a version this week. And then we'll decide if it's going to continue as a monthly or if it'll just be a random pop-up show.
I love that though. And I'll be honest, guys, when Jackie, Damien, and Chris came on the show, we did a mental health mindset show and we had like 200 attendees. And that was the biggest show I had had to that point. And, you know, it was just cool to listen to you too when you were on the show. And then I was addicted. I think that's when I became addicted to the show, is just listening to you and Damien talk back and forth, because you guys are great. I do have to say, I love what Jay put: train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Yoda. That's pretty good.
I need to remember that myself, because I think sometimes we get caught up in just wanting to succeed, that we also got to remember that part of our training does have to expect those bumps in the road and such. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, and
Melissa,
as a
I wanted
parent,
to tell you how I got addicted to you, though. So the very first
okay.
time I listened to this Coffee Chats with Melissa, of course, Damien had told me about your show, and it was probably just a week or two before we came on it. But I was out for a morning walk, and it was in my new neighborhood. I had never went for a walk in that neighborhood yet. And I finally remembered to grab my AirPods, because I always forget to use those. And I'm out walking, and it was one of those days that you're just not really in the groove, but you know you need to get your butt up and move and stuff. And your show came on, and I'm walking, and what I thought was going to be like a 10-minute walk ended up turning into like an hour and 45 minutes. Listen to your show the whole time. I'm like, who is this woman? And why does she have these cool guests on? And these people are like all talking and doing emojis, and they want to come talk to her. And that's when I became addicted to not just your Saturday show, but really your vibe and how you like to highlight things that some people either don't know about or they're not comfortable talking about, but you don't sugarcoat things, and you are going to stop people if they go down the wrong edge, and you are going to stop them if they start disrespecting. And I respect that so much, because sometimes we get caught up in our own world. We forget that it's a global atmosphere, that people across the different countries are listening, people that have different views, and they have different life privileges and lack of privileges. And you really started setting that tone, and I appreciate that so much. And I do try to replicate that in any time of the shows I do. So thank you for being you, my friend.
Oh, I love you. I honestly, I many of you guys don't know this, but I have a birthmark that is very prominent on my arm. And as a kid, like hearing bullying or hearing that tone in people's voice, I always felt gross, like, because I knew they were going to pick on me. Then when I grew up, I was a minority in my neighborhood because I was one of the few white people in my neighborhood. And I fought a lot. And I always felt that unease or that tone of like, am I comfortable here? Am I safe here? And so creating a safe space, creating that environment where, no, I will speak up for the little guy. I mean, I just had it happen at work, even where a customer was just being very aggressive. And I was like, no, you're not going to talk to my team like that. I'm so sorry. You can speak to me, but you're not going to speak to them like that. And I think it's because I've learned to take it. But I know so many people who walk this thin line of self-doubt. You know, they berate themselves in private. They don't have the best mindset. They doubt themselves every day. And I don't want anybody on my watch to feel that way, ever. I don't want anybody to not feel safe. And that goes for the 5-year-old to the 75-year-old in the room. Because I was a caregiver. I took care of my grandfather. And I heard horror stories from nurses who came from other homes, and they shouldn't have spoken, but they're like, I just left a patient and I'm just sorry. My whole heart's rattled for them. Can I have a minute? And they needed space because they just left such a bad environment. It just makes you grateful for your opportunities. And when you realize 1 in 5 children are abused at home, those adults grow up. When you realize people aren't always kind in their own homes, even spouses, right? There's stuff that goes on. I've watched background checks. We've seen the worst of the worst stuff happen. And when we can just be kind, we try. And when we need to set firm boundaries, there's a reason. But I just keep a circle in this Venn diagram of humans that I'm associated with. Oh, you're like there, right? I just want to keep space. And it's very important to me to do that. And so Jackie, thank you. I know she had to jump off. She wants others to come up. I also would love to see some other guests. If you want the link, I think I dropped it in the chat, but David Pushkin says, no amount of regret can ever change the past, and no amount of anxiety can ever change the future. Focus instead on the present moment and the power you have to shape it. I love that. You know, this last week, my dad had heart surgery, and thank you guys to those who prayed and showed up and commented. I just appreciate you so much. But he had the worst series of events happen. He's a woodworker. He was in his shed his garage doing woodworking, and the saw blade came undone. He got hit in the face with the flat side. It jumped like 7 feet after hitting him in the face, broke his nose. He was really bruised. They did no surgery, and he had a heart attack. They sent him home to heal. He had another one, and so they did open heart surgery. He's doing great today, but just a lot, and just dealing with the what coulds. I don't even know where I was going, but just, I do think, I looked up at David's quote. I told him the same. For those who don't know, my dad and I were not together when I was in my youth. He didn't even know I existed. Again, an 80s child, there was no email, no texting, no quick cell phones or Instagram to say, hey, we got to talk. So once he left town, he was gone. And I looked for him for a long time. Just kind of white pages stuff. Anytime I had research, I used my dad as a name as an example when I was trying to search in Google for results, like just fun stuff, right? When Google first came. And I would try to call every so randomly to people I would find to just ask, hey, were you ever this person in this town doing these actions? And I would never run into anybody that was a yes. And then one day we did the DNA test and it hit. And I found my dad. And I look a lot like him, especially younger pictures. They overlap quite a bit. Those cheeks that I thought were my mom's are not. They are definitely my dad's. I also have my dad's elbows, and I also have my dad's butt, according to my husband, which is weird. Anyway, he came and spent 10 great days, got to know each other. He's funny. He's flirting with anybody he can. He also looks like Santa Claus with rosy cheeks. And he's a farmer. He's a construction worker. He's a woodsman. He does all the things. And it's just really kind of cool. So get to know him. But here we are dealing with all of this end of life possibility. And he and I had conversations, right? And part of what I said was what David had said, and I'll bring it back up real quickly, is just no amount of regret can change the past. No amount of anxiety can ever change the future. And I just told him, Dad, we can't change it, but we can work on what's coming, right? We can plan for what's next. And so thank you, David, because that's exactly the message this week. I've made mistakes in coaching. I've made mistakes in consulting. Oh, there was one time, even as a background screener, where I accidentally deleted all of my vendors in Texas and the pricing associated with each county. It was a lot. There's lots of counties. I dare you to Google how many are there. It's hundreds, right? It was a mistake, but I went in immediately and I was like, oh no, I did this. I walked in before I could even calm down from my mistake. I was like, hey, guess what I just did? And I just blurted it out to my boss and owned it. My boss at the time said, great, go take care of it. Right? It's not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm a human. I probably made 4 on the way here today. My elbow hurts for no reason. I probably banged it on something. I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to tell you that. And I'm willing to learn on the grow. And I'm willing to show my friends what I learn as I go. And I'm just excited you're all here. Let me see here. Jay says your disability or challenges do not define you. That's another thing, guys. I really appreciate that comment. It is something that I struggle with. I have pinched nerves. I have arthritis. I have hooks on my hips. I have trochanteric bursitis. I have a ton of stuff going on with my body, and I still push. I still decide I don't want to just wait. And a lot of my network is amazing that way, right? Nicole and her publishing company, they are doing a book. We are more than our diagnoses. And I think it's really important that we own that, right? Just because my grandma used to tell me doctors are practicing medicine. And I was like, yeah, okay. But genuinely they are. They're learning on the go too. They're scientists who are beta testing. We are sometimes, the first round of testing after the lab has successfully tested a few rounds there, right? But we're still being tested. The cures that we've had later become lawsuits in some ways. The things that we read from the 1800s, we get punished for today. If you give your children codeine today, you're in trouble. The doctors used to do that for fun in the 1800s. Right? And so we evolve with new knowledge, or we don't. I try. My network tries. And new knowledge of your body not working the old way is just that. It's new knowledge. Sometimes we have to deviate. It's the pothole in the road. It's the, oh no, my one tire's gone now. What do I do? It's the, hey, I can't work on this car because this one went, I don't know, like what insert analogy. My brain's circling right now to all these things, but you determine what happens. And resting is okay. Asking for help is okay. Doing it on your own if you feel capable is okay, but make sure it's in balance, right? I don't even like you to hire people to help you until you understand what you're trying to hire for. If you'd want somebody to do your Canva for you, I have a client who likes me to help with this. And I'm like, that's great. I don't mind. I am a Swiss Army knife for my clients. However, I want you to go create a Canva image for me first. And it was so funny that the first response was, oh my gosh, no. Now this person is more comfortable. The value of having done it is, it doesn't take a lot. If you still don't want to do it, want to pay for it, great. But I would never want a client to come back and go, why did it only take you 5 minutes and you didn't tell me? Well, because you didn't ask is not a good answer, right? If you know it's quick as you get better, it's easier for you to pay for that, right? You pay a little more, get it done quickly, great. You need a little more time. You want to pay a little less. You have these variables. You have something to base your decisions on before you pay, right? Do some fact checking, do some research, figure out what the market's going to hold, what you're capable of. How hard is it really? Especially if you can just go into AI and go, hey, AI, can I get this? Now, read the terms and conditions. As a compliance person, I would like to recommend that. But guys, be creative. Be creative, be honest, be transparent. Drop your quotes. I'm loving these quotes. And if you guys want to join the stage, the comments check them, scroll for it, or DM me and ask for it. I will let you join. But I would love to know, what has Coffee Chats done for you? What do you want to hear from Coffee Chats? Have you had a coaching session with me? Have you known anybody who has, who told you, their outcomes? I really was looking back at some of these names, and some of them have passed, which is sad. Rebecca Ola, I think about her a lot. She used to be one of my, like the Lucille Ball of LinkedIn. If you guys know, she had glasses and red curly hair and bright red lipstick and a smile. And she was always just so kind in her praise of my shows and myself, and just a beautiful soul. And she was writing, and she wanted to write with Nick. And unfortunately, she passed from a heart issue. But I was thinking about her and how she's gone. Nita Hudson was another person who was just a vibrant human on the platform. Again, I don't know if it's just my friends with the red lips that came to mind first, but she could rock a red lip, and she was a highbrow professional, right? Just did the things, but also gone. Others that I wasn't close to, but heard of passing, people who have lost battles to cancer, people who have lost battles to dark thoughts. We got to take a moment and remember, it's not easy for everybody, and we got to be kind, right? We have to leave a circle for somebody else to feel what they're feeling in this Venn diagram of networking, of business, of partnership, of life. If you hire somebody to come work with you as an employer, as a leader, and it's hitting the fan at home, you may be their only reprieve for the day. If it's not hitting the fan at home and it's wonderful, you may be the worst part of their day. And I have lived to both extremes, I'll be honest. There have been moments where my home life felt like a fairy tale, and I would come in and I felt like Snow White with all the dwarfs coming, screaming, happy to see me. Making jam from scratch on the stovetop while the biscuits were in the oven kind of vibe. And then there's been other times where I sat in my car for an hour before I went into the house because I just needed somewhere to be quiet for a minute and take care of me. And it's so funny because I used to sit in the car, and the person who I spoke to about this will know I'm not going to call them out, but I see them around. I used to sit in the car and just play puzzle games, Candy Crush or something to that effect, just to distract my brain from all the things it kept trying to hold on to from the day, to erase all of that stress before I went in. As somebody who suffered from anxiety a lot back then, I was shaking almost at the end of the day, not really visibly, but inside. One loud noise, and my whole body would have just, right? I snapped. Still a little misophonia in there, I'll be honest, but not to the degree in which I used to feel it, which is crazy for those who know. But I would take the time in the car so I wouldn't have that. And I would take the time for my games, and it was a non-negotiable. I didn't care. I didn't care who called. If I wanted to talk to you, great. Grandma always got through. If she called, I would talk to her while I did puzzle games. She was very soothing and funny and hilarious, and she made it better. But boundaries mattered, and somebody just did the same thing where I was like, I was just in the middle of my game, and I wanted to call you right after, and I giggled because it made me so proud that I have friends who are like, no, I was in my zone. I'll call you after, right? We have grown a lot. I have surrounded myself with people who understand self-care. Felipe does workplace wellness, and he's talking about it in the show. I think they're doing a part 2. He just invited me, and I love what Sumana does over there too. Shout out to Sumana Jetty and Ashley Suellen, because she does art stuff and it's so cool. But it's a balance, and none of us are perfect, and all of us need some rest sometimes, and all of us need accountability to remember to rest sometimes. All of us need grace sometimes, right? But we're all trying to be better, and I genuinely see that work being done. And the difference of 10 years ago to now is the people who do it alongside me. When I started alone. I did have a great network. I had lots of referrals, lots of people talking about the successes. But as far as friends were concerned, like things beyond the Chamber of Commerce room, there wasn't a lot of lunches, right? There wasn't a lot of hangouts. There weren't phone calls on a Tuesday to go, what are you doing? What are you up to? I had that with my friends, but my business relationships were separate. And so being able to say, hey, there's balance, right? To know what I was lacking and what I had, to know that in my rest period, when people may be judging the profile, I am quite certain somebody out there, because maybe it came back to me, somebody out there had assessed that, oh, if they're not doing coaching as a primary function, they're not really a coach. Okay. Or maybe I worked for myself for a decade, and I'd like to now use this next decade to bolster my 401k, use my PTO to do things for coaching and get paid for it, even if I'm not coaching, because PTO pays you for the time you're using, however you use it, right? Maybe I just love the schedule so I can play at home and then I can get up, be active, and stay in shape. I'm standing 12 hours a day with arthritis, and can I tell you something? I feel better than I've ever felt when it comes to moving. If I sit too long, I feel old. If I lay too long, I feel old. When I'm running around that store with friends and dancing to the music and making customers dance with us, genuinely, I think my boss giggled a bunch because the customers just have fun. If I say airbag to a customer trying to get them to make sure they're safe, other customers will sound like parrots and say airbag. And no, airbag. And they just eyebrows too, like airbag. And when you have 3 or 4 or 5 customers all looking at the newest customer who they just spent 20 minutes hanging out with about their motorcycle, talking about, hey, save yourself, be safe, do this. And it's fun. And it's like, I don't know, it's Sesame Street. Yep. It's so much fun, guys. And I get paid for that. And then I get to come do this. And then I get to double dip on income. And that sounds like diversifying my portfolio. And then my husband's retirement plus this retirement plus my coaching being the income if I want to just sit at home and do it. Wow, it's like a strategy or something. And so anybody who's judging it without assessing my why should maybe come on the show. Here's the thing, guys. It's my way, right? And what I love, boundaries of grace, right? Not everybody gets me. Not everybody's going to. I have said not everybody loves chocolate. And if chocolate can't hit at 100%, I certainly won't, because I'm not that sweet. But I do think the ones that resonate with me will have profound impacts made in my life and vice versa. We will work together to make profound impact happen in other people's lives. There is a reason and a season for everything. You move in and you move out. The things that you work through reinforce the growth in the future, right? When you look back and say, what have I overcome and how did I do it? We've talked about the car breaking down. What did I know about a car? Not a darn thing, but I knew I should look under the hood because mechanics did. So let me start there. I knew that I was pressing the gas and it wasn't working all of a sudden. So press the gas, let me see what happens. And I saw this little arm flailing, right? There's a previous episode about the car breaking down, but genuinely assess what you can. You don't know it. Okay, great. What can you discover by trying? Because you may not have the solution, but even if I call a mechanic, being able to say, hey, the little army thing when I press the gas is flopping all over, will help him laugh at me and say, yeah, okay, sounds like your throttle pin broke. You need to attach that arm to the other, right? I didn't call a mechanic. I figured it out on my own because I was like, well, what's not plugged into the other arm, right? I figured if there's a connection, they should be comparable because they just detached. And it was easy. And we got it figured out. And I borrowed a screw from the glove box. It was a great solution because I was willing to replicate what I had seen in the past and figure it out from there. Same thing happened on a community events night. I do a lot of catering for the community. We do a bike night. And we have like 50, 60 people show up on average. I'm sure it's going to be double that this year, but I cook, basically catering the event myself from scratch. They take care of the budget, but I get to engage the community. I'm excited. I have all this food prepped. I need to get the grill out so I can keep it hot while we're serving. Wheel falls off. We have an hour to the event. The food's hot, needs to stay hot, or we're in trouble because I don't want to get anybody sick. I know my food handling. I used to work in a restaurant. Let's get to work. And so what did I do? I thought about what I did with my car. How do I fix this? And this plastic little wheel, and it was plastic, had been eaten away from the center. The bar that rotates the grill forward had started churning against the wheel, and it created a big donut. And so I created a solution. I screwed in more plastic. I poked a hole through the new plastic. We had a new wheel. Creative solutions, right? And so, guys, what are you working on that needs creative solutions? What can I help with? What can a coffee chat do for you? Do you even know? It is as simple as not even hiring a coach, guys. If you want to start growing right now, I'm going to give you some tips, okay? Because I don't want this to be an all about me show. Here's some tips. Number one, assess what you know about yourself. What have you overcome? What have you accomplished? What did you do when you didn't think you could? What did those moments look like, and what resources did you have? What was helpful, right? Like, I have always had accountability with Grandma's eyebrow. My clients get accountability from Melissa's eyebrow. Where do you get your accountability? Where do you get your motivation? What are you motivated to do? Why? Right? All of these things matter. You can go look at Ikigai. That's a really fancy Venn diagram. And eventually, after the first two, we will get to enough circles that it's the whole picture. But start simple. We don't have to start in college. We can start preschool level, get some clarity first. Just like, what the heck am I doing today? How many of us have ever asked that question? Like, oh my gosh, where am I? What's going on? Let me just take 2 seconds and assess everything. And when have you done it for more than just your work environment or your kitchen or your laundry or your kids and family in the moment? When was it you checked on your health, your mindset, your breathing, right? How many of my friends, Brenda Lise, I think of her, she does breathing. How many of us know how we're breathing? What about what you're pouring into your body? When's the last time you did something healthy for yourself that's new and fresh, like a fresh fruit, something that just came out of this field or something fun? I don't know. What does it look like for you? It's not up for me to decide. Just assess it. And then figure out what you're scared of, because that's the other thing. What we're fearing is going to take up a lot of our time. It really is. If I'm worried about traffic the whole way I'm driving, I'm thinking about cars. And I giggle because I see cars here and it's funny. I love the car series, by the way. But if you think about traffic the whole time you drive to work, you've used that time to stress, to worry about things you can't control. And instead, you could have been thinking about other things that would have better prepared you for when you get there or when you get off, or use that time in a different way to take it back instead of stressing. It's not always easy. I'll be honest. It's not a simple thing to start if you haven't done it. But once you get it done, I'm kind of excited about traffic. Traffic happens. Even my boss understands traffic happens, right? I understand when my employees hit traffic. I don't understand why they're so frazzled and stressed out when I'm so understanding. So if they just use that to sing their heart out and have a good time, way better use of their time than stressing about me and when I'm not even stressing, right? Just a quick example. Other things to consider, though, is why are you fearful? What are you stressing about? Is there a way to fix the stress? Are you worried about your finances? Can you tighten them up? Are you worried about your job? Can you reinforce your stability there somehow? Can you add value? Can you talk to your employer and ask, where do I stand? How are we doing? What's going on? What about your relationships? Children, parents, siblings, partners, it doesn't matter. What are those things that you wanted to do before today that you didn't do? I wanted to go to prom and I never got to, so I promise at some point I plan to have like a grown-up prom. I almost want it to be like a business prom though, where you bring a business friend and your whole intention the whole time is to introduce your date to the room. It's like a reverse networking, right? Where I'm not going to tell you about me. I'm going to tell you about my finger quotes date. And then they have to tell you about me also, because we don't talk about ourselves, right? You let your, oh yeah, this is my friend. This is my, and so they do the intro. And I think it'd be fun just to dress up and dance and have some punch and have a good time. Maybe get some food. I don't know, but why not? I think about the things that I want to do I haven't done. And there's not much on the list beyond traveling, beyond where I've been. Because truthfully, I don't hold myself back from much. I do want to play with elephants. I would like to do that in Thailand because they let you live with the elephants and like take care of them while you're there. I do want to speak to a Fortune 500 company where I stand on their stage in front of their employees in a bunny suit, the likes of Christmas Story, and talk about being of a mindset of victory, not victim. To assess, document, then act, rinse, repeat, right? To figure it out. I would love to have emotional women grow to the point of us helping, whether it's people transitioning within their own lives in some way, businesses trying to overcome some of the stuff that's happening within the walls of their business, because it's an emotional time for many, right? All the time. Every human, all the time, good or bad, celebrating wins or suffering through defeats and lessons that you have to learn and processing, it's emotion. And so no matter what it is, how do you navigate those things successfully? We'll talk about it. And I just wanted to thank you guys, because really, as much as I love doing the show, without you guys, it wouldn't be a show. Without the support of my network and the people who come and share their stories, Coffee Chats wouldn't have grown to the way it had. The conversations in those rooms that will never exist beyond the rooms were profound, life-changing for so many. And these aren't my words. This is the feedback I was given, which made me want to get up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, week after week, year after year. This has happened for years. It did help me provide for my family. When I think about LinkedIn, I have to be grateful because I had 5-figure days on this platform because of Coffee Chats, because of the actions, because of the posts, because of the transparency. I'm not hitting 5-figure days today. I'm not, but I could. I'd have to refocus, and I'll be honest, at some point I will, but I'm really enjoying this balance. I have a year left, a little more, with my kiddo before she's 18 and can decide where she goes from here. There's still conversation about maybe staying at home with the way the world is looking right now. It would be nice to not have to leave and just maybe pay mom and dad a little rent. And, that's cool that's the mindset, because maybe I get more time. But until she turns 18, I don't want to overwhelm myself with the same hustle that it took to get to where I was before. Because, guys, it wasn't easy to hit the numbers that I showed. And I'm going to bring it back real quick. Looking at this content performance, 1 million views, right? 1.1 million, just over. And It took time and effort. It took posting breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's something that I was doing. If you feed your feed when your network feeds, right? Like I was doing coffee chats. I was doing 3 to 5 15-minute calls a day on top of the coaching, on top of the consulting, on top of being a wife and mom. I've also moved a couple of different states in this time. I've been able to work remotely for 10 years before I decided to go back on site. And I loved every bit of it. But guys, my body feels better out. Now, at some point, I know the needle will shift and that's going to change because at the end of the workday, my body is angry at me. It really is. And I know it. But I think anybody who works on their feet all day feels that at the end. I do think there's benefit to being within a community, getting to know so many humans inside and out. I know so many people I didn't meet. I hadn't any idea before. I can't really go to a grocery store without running into 5 people I know. It is absolutely everything PBS promised me I would have as a grown-up. And yes, David, we will have a prom king and queen. I think that should be something people nominate, and we should have fun voting. I love this too here. David Koss says, fear overwhelms time, disables action. And that's it, guys. We used to talk about fear and excitement coming from the same part of the brain because it does. That same chemical reaction, that same energy is built for both. And it's up to us how we're going to deal with it. You either jump off the diving board and make it cool, or you freeze. I will be honest, it's always been harder to walk back down the ladder than to just jump. But the longer I paused at the top, the harder it was to jump. So don't wait. If you feel the energy to jump, get into action now. Something as a sales professional, I'll tell you, it's a secret. It's a tip of the trade for anybody who's a coach. If you have somebody interested in something, you have 7 days to act on it. After 7 days, this feeling starts to disperse. And I can prove it to you because if you're somebody like me who loves crafts, if you buy a craft today and don't act on that action within the next 7 days, you will not probably do the craft. And if I'm wrong, tell me. Like statistically, I would love somebody to prove this to me. I know it's out there somewhere. I don't have the facts. Maybe ask ChatGPT or one of the other AI sources to help you figure that out because I know it's a truth. So what are you going to do to act on this within the next 3 days? Now, 7 is the limit, which is ironic because we talked about 3 to-do lists that I have. One is today, one is this week, 7 days, and then after. Now, here's the funny thing, guys. If it's after and it's not a priority and you don't do it in the next 7 days, it could become one of those crafts in the closet on your to-do list after sometime in a dream. But, if you retire tomorrow, that craft list becomes priority number 1, maybe, right? So you keep it there, but it's not your priority. The things you really want to execute on, you put on the next 7 days because your excitement wanes as it goes. Maria, if your actions aren't getting results, we got to change the process, right? And it stinks, but sometimes we do get stuck in the mud, guys. Potholes happen. Tires go flat. You run out of gas. You're still in the car, but you need some help. AAA, a coach, somebody to just point at it and tell you where it went wrong. I still do free 15-minute calls. They're harder to come by because I do fit them in when I have time, and I have less time because I'm more strategic with it to get done all the things we've talked about. But it's there. It's always here on the show. We're here every 2 weeks, or every week, I'm sorry, and I'm always with Felipe every 2 weeks. We did take a little break for me with all my dad's stuff. It's been a lot, and I wanted to make sure I didn't burn myself out. I needed to make sure I was still presenting for the people I'm in front of every day. I wasn't in a position to work from home and just kind of keep pushing through the shows in the same way I used to. Because it was easier to show up on an audio event for 2 hours when I could just be done for the week and not have to engage with other humans if I didn't want to, or if I didn't have a coaching call. I could plan my day accordingly. Now I go outside and I have to deal with customers and I have to reserve the resources, right? It's okay. But where we are now is we're doing a show tomorrow. Felipe will get it up soon, I'm sure. He also has his social Saturday chat with Jay. Jay's going to show up over there. I know he's got a bunch of friends hanging out. Lots of cool people on that show. People I've known for years. People that have started in audio and kept going. So think about where you're at. Think about what your intentions are. Think about your today's list, this week's list, and after. Revisit every 24 hours to shift the list around, but just work that one list every day, 3 to 5 items. If you get it done and you're feeling great, move on to the next list. You're allowed. You have my permission. But if you don't feel like it, that's allowed too. Don't overdo it because life happens. And then the other thing about only having 3 items, guys, is sometimes that one first item becomes 4 other to-do lists, right? When you call to get an LLC, for example, that was a to-do list item for many business owners. You find out, oh, well, you have to do this and this to get your LLC first. And then now you have 2 other things to do. And so really, it doesn't mean you're only doing 3 things a day. It means you're giving space because those 3 things may need support. They need time. The other thing I want to tell you before I go is schedule for the yes. Give yourself an hour to do whatever you need every day, to assess, to feel better, to put in that time for yourself, whether it's a nap or different. I got to go though. I got to end this by 2 hours. Thanks for coming, guys. Here's the song to leave. We're going to cut it at 1:59. If you want more, go to YouTube. We'll see you then. See you next week. Take care.
Creeps through my window pane. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup was a whisper. Conversations open door. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing.